Okay, so the question is, and the topic of this podcast, should video games let you choose the difficulty level? This is a really interesting question.
Yeah.
Uh, so who do want to start uh, saying, how do you guys actually feel? Or
Hmm.
I feel like we should start by saying like how we usually like play our video games, whatnot.
indeed.
Um, I guess I'll start. Um, I'll share like how I enjoy playing my games and whatnot. So, most of the games I play, um, they're they differ a lot. They're not like they don't really have a lot of things in common. Like I'll have some anime games, I'll have some shooters, some RPGs here and there. Um, but most days, uh, or most games nowadays, they give you the option to, you know, choose a difficulty, and this is basically what determines like how you're gonna experience the game. It goes from like super easy to like incredibly hard. Um, and so me being the huge masochist I am, I always choose like
The
the
difficulty.
hardest difficulty.
Yeah.
Um, and to be honest, the only reason I do it is for the trophies, like because I know that like there's a trophy in there for beat the game on this
Oh
difficulty,
God, you're an achievement hunter.
basically.
Hmm.
I except I don't really 100% every game. I only the games that I really fall in love with. Which is why I'm playing Bloodborne through a second time, just
Damn.
just for the Chiefs. Um, but basically, I was talking about this to a friend the other day. Like, what I do, like, even though I do it for trophies, it's only like kind of superficially prolonging the game. If we were to like bring it down to what like the developers actually meant for the difficulty to be, or even an easier difficulty, the game is over in like much less time.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's been making me like reconsider like, oh man, like how much do I actually enjoy this game if the extra challenge that I added like is gone, like what is actually left of the game. um and then so I started thinking about other games, like older games when they first came out, they didn't really have like um a difficulty selection on them. It was kind of just like, this is how difficult the game is, this is how it's meant to be, you know just play it that way. um and then playing through Bloodborne and playing through Mega Man again, it's just kind of made me realize that like, these games, they don't let you select the difficulty. It's exactly how the developers intended it to be. And I'm seeing the game clear, basically like through their eyes, as how they wanted it to be seen. Um, so yeah. So anyway, my whole point was this: I like to play the games on their hardest difficulty, but I'm not entirely sure if that's how the developers want it to be seen.
Indeed. Yeah, that totally happens a lot in Japanese games. I have uh, Arslan, and most Dynasty Warriors games, it's a linear difficulty because it evolves in the game. Because it's kind of like those games that uh, you grow up, you level up, just like in any other games. But I'm playing a game right now that is actually Japanese. It's from BlueStacks, and I finished playing it, and it's called Iron Knight, and it does not uh, let me choose the difficulty for some reason. And I looked up, and I have to get in a certain level of the character to choose the difficulty. And for me, it's a bit of a problem because even though I have it on easy, it's still very challenging, just because I don't read. Uh, so I had to do a lot of things for the character before I go to that certain level and go beat the bad guy. But even though these challenges grow up with the character's level, so the reason why developers today they're not going lazy. They're in this part they're kind of doing a good job for some certain games, not letting you to get the difficulty like really high up unless you at least finish up some certain level or get into a certain point for the character. And how I do feel about it, it's kind of weird because for me, I like challenge, even though I suck in every RPG game or any Dynasty Warriors game. Uh, it is sometimes that even even though that the actual game you die and repeat, there's certain part of the game that it tells you if you want to change the difficulty because you're dying a lot. I don't know if you guys have experienced that. There's a lot of RPG games out there that you die like 10 times and the game just like pity you so much.
Yeah.
And you die. I'm going to ignore this because I know I can do it.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of that later.
Go on. Then I'll continue.
You want it? Okay. So
Yeah.
a while ago, I got Super Mario Galaxy 2 for the Wii. And I didn't think it was going to give me that much trouble because I played the original Super Mario Galaxy and I really enjoyed it and I beat it, no difficulty. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so, I can do this, no issue. There was this one level, just this one level that I couldn't get down for whatever reason. I kept falling off an edge and it was just over and over and over. And it was getting so repetitive that I was getting nauseous. Then finally a feature in the game that I didn't even know existed shows up. The game literally tells you, hey, you've been dying a bit. Here's a straight path to the end.
And like, you suck. Why don't you go the easy route?
Like, there's no obstacles, no enemies, nothing. It's just a straight path. And but it doesn't give you like the golden star. It gives you a bronze star. So it's like, it's like, oh, you did okay. You don't get first place. You get like third place. So yeah, that like, I know the game was made for like kids, like, and like if the kids are losing a lot, they want to keep the kid playing rather than turn them off and
Rage.
Yeah. But to me, that was a huge insult, and so I had to keep playing until I finally beat the game.
Oh shit!
Or the level.
I actually remembered something, and it's for a game not geared toward kids. It's Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're playing a higher difficulty and you die a lot, you get the option of getting a chicken hat, and that chicken hat makes you practically invisible towards enemies.
Wow.
I gotta get a chicken.
But you're playing the game wearing a chicken hat all the time.
It's still pretty funny.
And if you're recording that and live streaming that, pros or people that are really like respectable, like gamers that like to respect the gameplay and all of that and the difficulties, are like, oh, what the hell did you do? You're wearing the chicken hat. You're making the game. You're not playing the game how it's supposed to be played. You know what? Why?
You filthy casual.
You filthy casual. You nothing but a chicken boy.
That does happen a lot. And Games like these, I do not have a problem with games that actually have an option if you die a lot, but it's like Shinja and did say, it sounds like insulting. For us gamers, we do like the difficulty level in a certain way that we could go through the story. Um, yes, there's some parts that we're gonna rage. There's some parts that it's like almost impossible, and we need to take a break, like 5 hour break or a whole week break, and then we can go through the level and pass it. And I have a story with that. I played Naruto. I think it was Naruto Storm 3, and I just couldn't pass one part, and that option appeared. I'm like so insulted. Like, I'm not gonna change difficulty. This option is insulting, and I just kept and kept, and I raged. I almost break the controller. I waited like 2 days, and I just passed. I just passed that part like easy. Like, so what happens? Sometimes the game itself gets in a certain glitch or some way that the game is like easy sometimes, and you're like, so what happened in this level? Wasn't this level so hard in the first place? Now when I turn off the game and I turn it on, it's totally a different difficulty. I have no idea what did happen with that Naruto game, but sometimes the difficulty is like either the AI is stupid or the game just glitched out and it is not in the original difficulty. That is my experience for these, difficulty changes and this insulting screen of changing the difficulty. And yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting glitch. I don't think I've ever encountered anything like that. Or I mean, I feel like I want to say I've never encountered anything like that. I'm trying to think of a game that that I've done that in before. Oh, you know which one I'm thinking of? Child of Light, for the PS Vita. So you know how most games you choose your difficulty and you're kind of locked into that difficulty. Like, there's no going back. It's like, yep, I chose this. I have to now.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no going back, or unless you start the game all over. Yeah.
Yeah. A Child of Light doesn't have that. Like, it has, I think, 2 difficulty options only: normal and hard. And I beat the game on hard. There was no reward for it, so I don't even know why. But anytime at any point in the middle of the game, if you wanted to, you could switch it back to normal difficulty. And so, that kind of ruins the whole purpose of kind of selecting the difficulty, it's a game that has a leveling system. I feel like if you have a leveling system, you shouldn't have a difficulty select. That's what the whole level is, like, leveling system is for. Like, the enemies go up to a certain difficulty. You can beat them at a lower difficulty if you're really good, and if you're really bad, you grind a lot, and you can beat them at like a higher level. So I don't understand why games like that have a leveling system give you an option to change the difficulty.
Yes, indeed. I do remember, Shinja, that you played Final Fantasy. I think it was the Lightning one.
13.
And I think you got stuck in a level, and I think you did the same that I did. You took a break, and then you just pass it.
I took
like
a
nothing.
2-year
You
break.
took a yeah. I
Holy
remember. 2 freaking years.
Yeah, the game was just sitting there, and it like look at me once in a while, mocking me. And then one day I'm like, you know what? I'm ready. And I popped it back in, and like it was a level like you basically had to climb this tower, and at the top of the tower there was a boss. So I went through the tower. I fought all the enemies along the way. Leveled up like once maybe, and then I did it. I beat the boss. I was like, this was giving me so much trouble. Like what the, like what?
Yeah.
And then, to my surprise, that was like the second to last boss in the game. Like there's only like maybe one more or two more bosses after that. So I literally waited 2 years just to finish the game.
Wow. So you could have finished it like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Back in the days, yes.
Yeah, but yeah, the difficulty really ramped up. That's another thing about like difficulty. This is more on like game design or anything. You should when you're designing a game, you should ramp up the difficulty like gradually. You know, it's kind of like, oh, here's the easier enemies. Oh, you're leveling up. You know, and then by a certain point, when you reach a certain point in like the level, you're supposed to be like, you know, leveled up to a certain point, or you know the game's mechanics enough that you don't, lose. But this happens in a lot of Final Fantasy games where like you're going, and then all of a sudden you hit a huge wall, and like there's nothing you can do because there's a move the enemy does that one shots you, and there's no way to stop it unless you're OP.
Indeed. There's some games that, like we all said, that RPG games, we do level up and the difficulty keep on rising. And there's sometimes I feel that there's no point of getting a difficulty, like choosing a difficulty easy, normal, hard, or insane in an RPG. Now I'm gonna ask you both this. This is I know RPG and fighting games are very, very differently, but which is the most compatible for difficulty option for these different genres?
I think that the ones that would be best to have a difficulty would be, I think if I could pick my top three, I would say most important, definitely strategy games, like real-time strategies. Second, fighting.
Yeah.
And third, shooters, because you could just ramp through playing with a computer, slowly increasing the difficulty, and just creating new strategies and trying to adapt to that. Because if you take into consideration, a computer is a computer. It's not going to take the time it does to think like a human does. A computer just acts instantly, and it adapts something to like what you mentioned earlier with the Naruto game. The thing about AI is that it adapts to the choices you make. Once you start playing it a lot, it's gonna learn what you normally do, and it's gonna start countering that.
Yes.
And that's gonna force you to play differently to adapt your strategy. And it's the same with shooter games and fighting games, and that's you use that difficulty to develop new strategies. Maybe there's a leveling up system, but leveling up might just unlock like new weapons and whatnot and new moves. It's not the same as improving you yourself, reflexes, learning combos, memorizing what combo can go after what combo, what building should I use next, what building what research should I go after, what units should I research. Yeah. And difficulty in that aspect for those games, definitely for competitive games, is basically a must, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with everything Dids has said. Now, the one game that I usually don't want to see like difficulty level attached to, like, or level selector, would probably be well, there's RPGs because, like I said, there's already a leveling up system.
Yeah.
But more than anything, movie or games that are more like movies, they should have kind of a set difficulty on them. But I guess it really depends on like what you're going after, because I'm thinking like some games like Until Dawn or Beyond Two Souls. You know, those kinds of games, like, those are really cinematic, and it's all about exploration, and then there's quick time events, of course, that you have to use multiple buttons. But they have difficulty selectors on them, and it's kind of pointless, because all you're really doing is like, oh, press more buttons during the quick time event. Oh, you got less time to choose. Like, it's really pointless. And then there's games like The Last of Us, where that's a really cinematic one, and Uncharted. But I actually like the difficulty settings on them, because I'm thinking more of like The Last of Us, where it's you know, it's a zombie apocalyptic world. You want to feel that stress of like, oh, I don't have enough ammo. Oh, there's zombies everywhere. One wrong move, I'm dead. You know, and you don't want to get bitten. You don't want to get scratched. You don't want anything. So that be able to choose that difficulty is good. Like, at least the harder difficulty. But then there's just some people that want to, like, they just want to see the story. You know. So, being able to put like the, I don't know, noob difficulty or super peaceful difficulty is advantageous for them. So maybe just like lower the amount of difficulties to choose from.
Be like easy, normal, hard, or like easy, hard.
Easy and normal.
Easy,
like,
hard.
I mean, for games like that, a lot of people want to use the difficulties to like get replayability and get the most out of what they paid for the game. Like, I'm the type of guy that'll play a game on easy just to experience the story, and once I got the story down, I'm like, oh, okay, now let's see how good I can get at this game, and then I'll play it on normal, and then I'll play it on the next difficulty. I do that a lot with the Dead Space series.
Yeah,
and
that's a good example.
There's some games that don't do it well. Like, so I love the Uncharted series, but it does a horrible job with its difficulty settings. Like, you know, easy is like ridiculously easy. You know, so that's how it's supposed to be, I guess. Normal is like kind of how they meant for you to play, and then hard and the other difficulty that comes after hard.
It's unplayable.
That's when it gets ridiculous, because you're not even like, it doesn't even become challenging anymore. It's just really, really repetitive. Like the same enemies, but like 20 more of them all around the stage.
Yeah, that's
like nothing's really like changing. Like, you know, you die quicker and there's more enemies. That's all that's happened. You know. There's no actual added challenge to it other than that. So it's like all artificial. So I'm like, should that even exist? Like, cause it's not really adding anything to the game other than just actually making it longer for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. I wouldn't say it's replayability, but
I mean, there are, I think that at least for games like Uncharted and other types and in that vein of video games, I think for instead of difficulty, it would be better to have like specific game modes. Like, say you're gonna play Uncharted, then okay, we'll do a pistols only run, or we'll do a die in one hit run, or stuff like that. Like different game modes, different challenges for you to accomplish.
Yeah.
So there's some games today that developers choose that their game is so realistic. Since we're talking about Uncharted, we can talk about a little bit about the Tomb Raider series from the Tomb Raider from PlayStation 3 and up. Not the old ones, but you know, the recent ones that they make realistic, and sometimes the difficulty feels heavy. It feels slow. It feels like you can't barely control the character because it's it's too heavy. It's too realistic that even at the start of the game you start dying. It happens to me in uh, Metal Gear Solid 4. Even though Metal Gear Solid 4 it was a PlayStation 3 game, and it was hard as hell, because you have to know what you're doing, and sometimes the difficulty itself, if you press normal, it's like extremely challenging for you, even though you have played the previous games from that, like a sequel or a previous game of that, and totally different mechanic, and you feel that the character is like, okay, it's just too real. I know that they want to make it realistic, but sometimes it's just too hard to maintain consistency with the character itself when pointing and shooting or fighting or etc. Have you guys experienced something like that besides Uncharted or Tomb Raider?
I can't think of too many games off the bat, but I know what you mean. Like, it kind of just throws you into it, and like right from the get-go, you can't even get past stage 1 because it's just too hard. Like, and then the rest of the game isn't as hard.
Exactly.
I want to say, like, there's games that do it right. Like Borderlands did it great on Borderlands 2. But actually, they had to patch in an update to make it easier because they were having that problem with people. They couldn't get past that first boss. Because all you had at the beginning was just the pistol, wasn't it? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's a handgun.
Yeah, my first pistol.
Yeah. So they updated it to actually make it easier. Like, hey, here, have 2 guns that actually will do something. So that's another example of a game that, like, they made it too difficult, and they wanted it to be difficult, but then the game is never as hard as that first, or it's not as cruel as that first bit. So they learned from their mistakes, though, and promptly fixed it.
Yeah, at least a lot of developers acknowledge that. And so how about you, Dids? Have you experienced games like these lately?
That are extremely hard.
At the beginning, yeah.
At the beginning, I'm gonna have to say, if I were to pick like a game that was extremely hard, I wouldn't say it's because of a boss. It's because simply the I'm gonna have to say This War of Mine. It's kind of like a survival, resource management, community management game, and it's I find it at the beginning to be extremely difficult because the first time I played it, I didn't know shit about the game, and it didn't like explain very well all the mechanics and what you needed to do, and that's mainly it's basically it kills the game in the sense of first impressions, because with the game it doesn't explain very well how the combat works, how different items affect your community members, and it is a difficult game, just not on difficulty, just mechanic wise. Like, it's not very clear how to accomplish everything.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you say, RPGs suffer from that too sometimes, where they start off kind of like too restrictive. Like an example I give, like The Witcher 3. I play that also on the hardest difficulty, and you get jack shit like at the beginning. Like they give you like your basic swords and that's pretty much it, and then you get thrown into the game. And immediately there's like a whole bunch of enemies, and I was stuck just like literally on the first 3 enemies for like an hour.
Damn.
And it was like death, repeat cutscene, deaf, repeat cutscene, deaf, repeat cutscene.
And you couldn't skip it. Like
Yeah,
skip
you know you
cutscene,
can't
damn it.
skip. You could skip. You could skip the lines of dialogue, but you'd have to like press X like continuously through each line, and then it'd be like, oh, there's some enemies. You know, so, yeah, that I mean, Witcher wasn't supposed to be like. I mean, I guess it was supposed to be like an unforgiving game, kind of like
Yeah.
Bloodborne in a way, or like
Yeah.
the Dark Souls series. But like after playing both, The Witcher is a little bit more forgiving. But at that beginning, like at the very beginning of the game, you're so helpless and vulnerable. Like you don't have any of your fancy skills that one shot
Yeah.
stuff, and you know, it's like for the first, like I want to say, 100 hours of the game, you're struggling. Or I want to say 48 hours actually.
Yeah.
Like you're struggling to like actually like get through the world safely, and then after a while you're like, oh, like there's a trick to everything, and you know, it loses that difficulty all of a sudden. So Witcher's not the only game that suffers that, but like it's one of them that I've noticed. Like I said, it's an RPG thing.
Yes.
With
Yes.
leveling up and whatnot.
Indeed. And so we keep talking about the difficulty as the game itself, but there's also like shooter games and there's also RPG, and all of it on fighting games is the ranking level. The ranking level online. Then this could be a little bit troubling.
But online is where it gets iffy or weird.
It is glitchy and weird. I don't know if you guys have experienced it.
Like it's not just fighting games; it's like everywhere. Like I think fighting games, like, oh, someone knows how to play the game, they'll wreck you in 2 minutes, maybe even
You
less.
pick the lowest rank, and they just jump you from another server, and it's like the highest rank, and you just get pounded out.
And but I also think of like League of Legends and like you know,
Yeah.
pro players playing on Smurf accounts and whatnot. That kind of stuff. It's like there's no way to actually be like, oh yeah, if you enter here, you're gonna meet all people of the same, you know, level and skill as you. It's like, no, you're gonna find someone who's way too good at this game and for some reason underleveled.
It happens in a lot of mobile games, though.
Oh yeah.
League of Legends is not the only one.
Well, because you get tired of getting beat by people your like rank or whatever, so you decide to make a Smurf account, and then it's like, hey, you're with noobs again, and you're destroying everyone.
Yes. I don't know if Dids have experienced this. I bet he does.
League of Legends, yes, I have. Yes, and even in Dota. God, I hate Dota.
Yeah, it's beginning to be troubling, even though the difficulty online, it's inaccurate, and sometimes it's a little bit, you know, like Shinja said, it's not glitchy, but you know, it's sometimes it's not as accurate as I said before. It's not fair, really. If I choose a rank, I just really want to fight or battle a guy from the same level as I am. I don't want to jump on to a certain 100 level guy, and I will not have fun with the game. I will barely level up because I'm gonna keep on dying and dying. And actually, some games do level up your character up by just dying, but a lot of games don't. So this is an issue here because ranking levels today on fighting games or shooter games, new shooter games that are not well balanced. Shooters, I don't consider like something really bad, because even a kid could be a pro. Even beginner's luck could be something that it could randomly, happen. But at the same time, it's like uh, the whole game you're fighting against pros. If we were talking about shooter games, there's no way you could like do a kill or barely do an assist. I have been in those situations before, and it not just happened in Call of Duty, but and also Battlefield, which I choose on Battlefield 3. You could choose the map and also the server, and you could actually see the people which they're on the servers that you already know them. Basically, this is a thing that servers do help, and I know that not all of the games have servers like shooter games or other games. Certain servers, like people could create their own servers, and not all of the people have, nor all of the developers want that because they want to have the whole control. But at the same time, it's like inconsistent. I just want a rank that I can be safe. I don't know if you guys have have this thought on your mind that I want to level up the fair way.
Yeah. Um. I mean, like I said, like online games, it's gonna be way too hard to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's developers are constantly trying to figure up a way to like make it easier and more enjoyable for everyone. Because in the end of the day, when stuff like that happens, like you're not enjoying the game anymore.
Yeah. So how about you, Dids?
Yeah, I mean, I have had an experience with MMO games, especially. I don't know if you guys know about this game. It's called Wakfu.
Wakfu. No.
Sounds
It's
familiar.
Yeah, it sounds
it's
familiar.
it's I think it's based on an anime, on a French anime, I believe. Also, it's in the same vein of this. It's a tactical RPG MMO, and it's a lot of people. You create
Is
your
it World
character.
of Kung Fu? Is that it?
No, Wakfu. It's just Wakfu, Wakfu, and
Yeah,
it's
I
it's in
can't
the same
find it.
vein of. I think maybe its main game. It's kind of like a spin-off MMO of another MMO called Dofus, and
Okay.
it's I mean I remember when I first played that game. It was already like 2 years into its lifespan, and normally all the low-level people are like just higher level people making more accounts because you can have the client open like 6 or 7 times and
Indeed.
and just have a party of you because people had like 30 seconds to take each turn, so you could just have a party of 6 people if you had a beefy enough computer to do that. And most of the low level characters were just people going out and power leveling and not doing the quests. And when I first started playing the game, I like experiencing a story of a game. And there were a lot of quests that were like, "Oh, you need a party." I'm like, "Hey, can anyone help me do this quest?" And like, "No, we're power leveling.
Yeah.
Come power level with us." No one does these stories anymore. I'm like, I wanna see the story. I need a party to do this quest. No.
Yeah. I
And
like what
it's just
yeah, go on.
no, it's
Oh,
just that, yeah,
first.
just that thing of people like not giving a community like that, not letting new players get the same experience they got at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I like what Final Fantasy 14's done was that um like they have a duty finder thing implemented into the game, and I don't know if other MMOs are currently doing this. I haven't played an MMO in a while. But basically, so they'd have all the dungeon quests and whether they were story related or not. They'd have them in this thing called Duty Finder, and you could find all the required party members through that. And they actually made an incentive to other players who have already completed it to actually help players who haven't completed like older levels replay them over and over again. So, for example, like there's this one quest in Final Fantasy XIV. It's the very last quest in the game. Just to beat it. And that's the one you get the most like gold, experience points, and like all the nice drops and whatnot. And so people like grinding that a lot. And it shows up on the duty finder as a lot as like, hey, if you're this role, you'll get a special bonus. So it like incentivizes people to like be a tank just for this moment or whatnot, and it gives you like all the fancy stuff you want. The only problem I found was that by doing that, like everyone got so good at the different levels that literally you walked through the entire dungeon feeling like you did nothing. Because you got an entire party, like, they know where to hide, they know all the spells that work, it was so organized, yet unorganized. Like, there's no communication going on. Everyone just knew what to do. It was crazy. So, there's that. So that's the only downside. But then they added an actual, like, kind of board thing where you can post requests of, like, hey, I'm looking for a party. And you can say what specifically you're looking for. I'm looking for grinding. I'm looking for a party for this specific quest that's not on the duty finder, or that maybe it is on the duty finder, but I want these specific classes to be in my party and whatnot. So it was really good. So I would like to see that from more games. Like Square Enix has been listening to their fans recently. At least when it comes to Final Fantasy 14, because they really effed up on the first ones.
Yeah, all three of them.
Yeah, I remember when the original Final Fantasy 14 came out. I think they fixed it up after that expansion that they just included in the game for free.
Sort of, but it was too late. The damage was done.
Yeah.
Like no one wanted it after that.
People just like totally bashed it out. Like, well, we don't want to play this shit.
Yeah, and then they made a Realm Reborn and discontinued the servers for the original. But hey, like the Realm Reborn did really well. Anyone who bought the original game kept their characters all the way leveled up on the legacy servers. They transferred over, and they even got like special items and whatnot. So it was really cool. What they did was like a Realm Reborn, and then the DLC expansion that came out. What was it? Dragon Sword.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
Or Heaven's Ward.
Heaven's Ward. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
Sorry. So continuing with the difficulty thing, what I really think, and these are my final thoughts about the difficulty levels and all that, is that if the game is going to have difficulty levels like easy, normal, hard, or insane, us gamers, we should be rewarded on each, not just by achievements or trophies, something from the game, something that we should like get from the game because of the hardest difficulty. We shouldn't. I feel that us gamers need to be rewarded. We need to have more reason to have chosen that difficulty, such as easy or insane, because I have to have a reason that I get to that level, even though I do want the challenge, but it's not yet to that point of, so why am I doing this? You get what I mean? It's like, okay, I want challenges, but what do I get?
Yeah, it's basically like a game that I still play quite often on the PlayStation 3 is Diablo 3.
Mhm.
And in Diablo 3, you level up, and once you level up, if you stay at the same difficulty, then you're just gonna get certain gear drops through in a certain item range, like item level. Like
Yeah.
the game scales to your specific level, so you're constantly playing, constantly getting bosses that are leveled up to your specific level. But I mean, the game has like 10, 12 difficulties, and each time you ramp it up, you get more experience, you get more money, and once you keep going, you get gems to put on your equipment. Once you keep going higher, you get stronger gems, you get currency for top tier weapons, top tier gear, and you get better item drops.
There's incentives and whatnot, and also like they've actually like designed the game around that difficulty as well. You know,
Yeah.
so
I believe the console version goes up to, I think it's normal. I think it's easy, normal, hard, master, and then torments 1 through 6. I believe the PC version goes all the way up to torment 10,
wow,
if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. Diablo's another game
So
I've been thinking of getting. It was one of those games as well that it didn't do great when it came out, and then they added some stuff to it, and it's like, oh, now it's better.
Yeah, once they released the expansion, because it was basically the same feeling that you got from Borderlands, that there was too much useless loot drops. And you can find there was so many useless loot drops that it was harder to get good gear drops to improve your character.
indeed. So, guys, any final thoughts on the difficulty of a any game? What should be better for the future of difficulties, or any suggestion? I don't know. Developers won't listen to us, but at least Square Enix will do sometime. But yeah, what are your final thoughts?
I think difficulty levels are important, and everyone does find some sort of enjoyment out of choosing their preferred difficulty. What I think though is it shouldn't be added willy nilly. There should be like Dids mentioned, proper scaling for each difficulty, and try to spice things up more rather than just be like, oh, there's an extra enemy, but this one happens to be level 15. It's like, no, like actually, like, make it kind of a unique enemy, or there's an added danger, like, oh, the floor is lava all of a sudden, something like that.
Yeah, it comes a lot with these types of challenges, and now more than ever is the speed run community is very active, and I have seen multiple things of, like, for the Resident Evil games, for example, there are specific categories and speed runs for either easy mode, hard mode, or rearranged mode, which is the mode where all the puzzles and all the items that you have to find are in different places. But yeah, it's basically that. I mean, there are some games that I don't think benefit from having a difficulty, which are definitely RPGs, or at least Japanese RPGs, like the typical JRPG style, like Final Fantasies and whatnot,
Yeah.
and platformers. I don't think platformers should have a difficulty. I think platformers should just be designed and played in that certain way.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's many platformers nowadays that do have a difficulty, but if they give you an option to, like, all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's an easier route. I feel
I
like
mean,
that's defeats the purpose of the game.
Earlier you mentioned that moment you had in Super Mario Galaxy, right? Or Super
yeah.
Mario Galaxy 2.
Yeah,
So yeah,
so
that's definitely a drop in that difficulty, which I don't think should be something that's available, even if it is a game aimed towards kids. But I mean, it's a respected franchise that's been here for a long time, so they know probably at least half or more of their clients are going to be grown ass men.
To put it one way, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. I guess that's it for our thoughts.
I mean, there are games like what's this? Oh God, I'm totally blanked on the name. The name that Bloodborne copies, basically. That the same Dark Souls. Oh my
D-
God.
Well,
Why did I?
they are from the same. Well, Demon Souls is the like
Yeah,
the
but
people who made Demon Souls made Dark or Bloodborne, and Dark Souls kind of is like the same team, sort of spiritual
yeah,
successor. I don't know, something like that.
yeah. But basically, what I'm trying to get at is like at least, you play Dark Souls and you go through the game once, but then it gives you the option to restart it again. It's basically a new game plus. And
Yeah.
I'm still playing. I'm still playing Dark Souls 1 because I believe it goes up to new game plus 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 plus, which is like the seventh iteration of the. And every time it ups the difficulty, it gives all the enemies more HP. It scales up
Yeah.
to the level. It scales up to the amount of souls you've received at the time, or how much the game would expect you to receive unless you grind, which is really not. I don't find it to be that necessary in the game because of how much variety of equipment you have to use with your different attributes, and yeah, it makes the enemies harder to kill, and it places more enemy or rearranges where enemies are placed. So it's always a different experience. You could say like, oh, okay, I'm going to go down here. Then I go left and there's going to be an enemy there. Then you go down there, you trigger an enemy, you go left, there's no one there, and immediately you get backstabbed by another enemy. You're like, what just happened?
Yeah. Just yeah, scaling is important. Like no matter what. Like when I restarted Bloodborne in New Game Plus, basically, um, I at first I thought, oh, I'm so leveled up. I was only like level 98, maybe 89. I can't remember. It was an 8 and a 9.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should be able to get through like the first boss, no issue. And I did get through the first boss first try, but it it was harder because it scaled up properly. And lo and behold, now I'm level 153, 4, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the game just keeps, it like it hasn't lost any of its entertainment value. It just keeps surprising you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Indeed.
Indeed.
All right, so these are our final thoughts, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. So, all right, people. Thanks for watching. Please tell us, your thoughts on the difficulty or any experience. Please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. This has been Zyberpunky.
Didsikal Games.
And my name's Shinja, and I run a Let's Play channel named Karibukai Play with my good friend Officer Dan. We live stream every Friday at midnight, so I guess it's technically Saturday. We play Mario Maker every night. You'll see Zyberpunky there, you'll see Dids there, and you'll see many other people there. Come join us and have a grand time. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out Didsikal Games as well, since he was here. And we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys later.
Peace.
Alright, good.
Awesome. That's a wrap.